And good evening, welcome. It's a Wednesday night, it's 10 o'clock, and I'm in company with Mr. Bonzo Slater, our man in the chamber. How are you, sir?
Bimbling along, although I'm not in the chamber at the moment, obviously. Nobody's in the chamber at the moment, of course, because we're having virtual sittings, but that may change, I would suspect. If there are various announcements tomorrow, then it may be that next Tuesday's Tynwald is actually back in the music hall.
Now, tell me, you're sounding loud and clear. Last week it was a bit fuzzy, it was a bit dusty, it was a bit crinkly. Have you got some new kit installed?
Yes and no, because I've actually got some new kit, but I actually haven't installed it yet. So, it just maybe it's decided to be a bit better today. I don't know, but yes, I've got some nice fancy microphone things, like sort of angle poise lamp stuff, things you have in radio stations, so it looks all fab and professional and all that kind of thing.
Does that mean you're going to treat us later on to a bit of John Peel, perhaps? Is that on the cards if we speak to you nicely?
I don't know. Actually, I think we'll just wing it and see how it works. I'm trying to put some turntables up, so I can feed in various strange records and stuff like that, or cassettes that people might send in demos of their band or something.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, those were the days. But now, of course, we must consider the ever-changing environment of Tynwald, because, of course, we're supposed to be having tomorrow a extraordinary additional sitting, the House of Keys, to do things, which was supposed to be issuing an order paper last Thursday, but they've only just got round to issuing it. I think it was on yesterday.
This is to avoid scrutiny, is it? Is it some sort of scurrilous tactic?
No. I think the problem was that initially, and it's still up on the Tynwald website, saying this, that the additional sitting will agree, and that the business will include the following items: Adoption Bill 2021, consideration of clauses; Landlord Registration Private Housing Bill 2020, consideration of clauses; Road Traffic Legislation Amendment Bill 2020, consideration of LegCo amendments; and Climate Change Bill 2020, consideration of LegCo amendments. But both the Adoption Bill and the Climate Change Bill don't appear on the order paper. That's because there are questions on the order paper, and I think one of the problems was that members were rather insistent that questions be asked, rather than it just being, as David Ashford seems to think, that the Keys and Tynwald are there to just rubber stamp legislation and churn legislation. It comes in a sausage machine, goes there, and legislation comes out the other side.
Hasn't they been occupied with something else? Because I've been on the edge of my seat now for over a week, waiting for the grand rebuttal of the doctor's claims. Where are they?
Well,
what's happening there?
Well, the grand rebuttal. I was seeing something on Twitter, naturally from Rachel Glover, and she was posing the idea that the grand rebuttal won't be publicised, certainly not as yet, because of course they will be called, DHSC will be called before Public Accounts Committee in order to give their side of the story, and so the rebuttal will actually have to be presented as a confidential document, as evidence to PAC, in the same way that her timeline has been submitted to PAC. So then that won't be able to be discussed, etc., because it can only be discussed in PAC, and then it will then sort of go on a bit. And then, of course, at the end of this month, is it the end of this month? I think that no, it's the end of May, I think, where the Steam Packet report is supposed to be coming out. So yes, there will be a lot of kerfuffle and such and I think I hope that it will kind of go away.
But we did have it
Or
from
at
the
least
podium.
at least we could
It was almost like Clinton, wasn't it? I did not have relations with that woman, in that kind of way. And it's all gone. It's all gone.
Oh yes. Well, I think possibly better heads may have prevailed, and told David Ashford not to give us all a very large legal bill and a large headache.
I must commend Dr. Rachel, apart from the quest, for justice. Just having this image in our mind of this little robot wandering around the lab in the style of like Buck Rogers. I just had.
I mean, like tweet. Yeah, for those of you familiar with Buck Rogers in the 25th century, a very highly camp sort of space thing of the late 70s. Yeah, late 70s. Imagine disco. The robot in that Tweaky was voiced by Mel Blanc, who is, of course, the voice of Bugs Bunny and all those Looney Tunes characters. So here, Tweaky, beady beady beady.
Yeah, that was it.
Beady beady beady. Oh yeah, beady beady beady. Hey there, Buck. Beady beady beady. It was absolutely riotously silly. But yes, that Bob the petting robot.
Yeah.
Is that a petting robot? Oh no, because it's a pipetting robot, because it does automatic the squeezing of the pipettes into little test things for the machine, which people obviously can do by hand, but this thing does it sort of 30 at a time.
And the other robot was Hal, which...
Yes, I'm not quite sure what Hal does.
Well, Hal, isn't that from 2001: A Space Odyssey or something like that?
Yes. I mean, yes. Hal is Hal is of course the robot. Well, not the robot, but he's the computer who runs the spaceship in 2001. Who, because he's been told to keep things secret from the crew about the discovery of alien life, kind of goes a bit mad. And starts killing them.
There's another science fiction film about a robot going out of control, and it's called Greenhow. So,
is it?
It's in the making.
Oh, God. There's loads of things like that. But speaking of things going out of control, now before, of course, they had 48 hours notice of the exceptional sitting of Keys, but not to be outdone, of course, the president of Tynwald has decided to have an extraordinary sitting of Tynwald at the same time. Right. This is in order to pay tribute to the now late Duke of Edinburgh before his funeral on Saturday. But the thing is that these things can get to be rather open-ended, and rather than it being 10 minutes of the president of Tynwald, just giving a retrospective of Duke of Edinburgh's relationship to the Isle of Man and maybe a couple of stories about how he met him a couple of times, it will then end up with the Speaker of the House of Keys then replying to that, and he'll give his stories of meeting the Duke of Edinburgh, dum-de-dum-de-dum. Then Chief Minister will weigh in with his stories of meeting the blah, 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 blah. Then some other person like Ralph Peake, the head of the Climate Change Transformation Board, will go on about his environmentalism. And so an hour later, then actually the Keys can start getting on with the additional business that it's having to do. But it's had to, as I've said, drop some of the business that it planned to do in order to allow questions.
Blimey. As if enough hasn't been said.
Well, yes, and the thing is, we don't have much time in the sort of allotted sittings left. There are, including next week's Tynwald, there are 4 Tynwalds left. Before the election, and there are 6 scheduled Keys and 6 scheduled Legco sessions. That's all. that's supposed to progress 9 bills, which are still going through.
That's approximately maximum 20 days of business, isn't it? Between now and the last paycheck. And the thing is, if you do get voted out, I think, do you get 6 months' pay? I think it's dependent on length of service. I think there's
as well.
I think there's a
parachute
payment.
I think the minimum.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the minimum. If you do one term and then you're, and then you're voted out, I think you do get something like a 6 month parachute payment.
Yeah.
I think the parachute payment though is longer, for the longer you've been in. Oh, hang on, there may be another but then again, after 10 years you get a full pension anyway.
Precisely, and just think, so out of the 24, how many parachute payments are there going to be?
Well, that will be interesting to see, won't it? Yeah.
I think the Manx public are getting an appetite for bouncing a few out at the moment, if you believe all you read in social media. But it's certainly been active, hasn't it? There's certainly a big focus on the political scene. I think lockdown gives people time to get those keyboards in a frantic motion.
Well, I think also it's a question of people remember last time and they thought things were going to change and they didn't. And that's because, of course, the establishment managed to game the system. And the system is still there for them to game, but other people have woken up to the fact that they've got to try and game the system. You can't play your game. You have to play their game in order to defeat them.
Yes, we're looking at postal votes and granny farming and the like.
Well, not merely that. It's about the opposition vote fragmenting.
Yeah.
Because if you have all this idea of let 1,000 flowers bloom, loads of people should stand as candidates. So those that actually oppose the current thrust of policy, the status quo, really, we bow down to our friends at the Chamber of Commerce, that sort of thing. People who actually want real substantive change on the island, they tend to break up into various little parties and groups. You've got the Greens, you've got the Manx Labour, you've got Liberal Vannin, and then you've got Uncle Tom Cobley and all the various independents and other types of people. Who knows, even the Taxpayers Alliance might mysteriously find some candidates.
That popped out this week, full of facts.
Yes.
A fact.
Oh yes, the Manx Taxpayers Alliance, which has no formal relationship with the Taxpayers Alliance across at 55 Tufton Street in London,
you heard it first.
Where all the right-wing organisations live and think tanks. They all seem to share the same building.
Did you see the Manx Labour Party were on UK Socialist think tank as guests? The Manx Takeover.
No, I saw that they were on. Yeah. I saw that they were on there as guests, but I haven't actually seen the thing.
Yeah.
Don't know if you have.
I have, and Devon, Joni, and Kira, smashing job.
Oh well, I shall have to have a look at that.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good to see the local political people reaching out and trying things new. I like that. I think there's a
and hopefully, of course, as we were saying before, hopefully with announcements tomorrow, it may be that Tynwald next Tuesday is actually going to be in the music hall, so you can actually see members of not only hear members of Tynwald, but see them on the YouTube channel.
Should we have a look at the order paper and pick out a few questions?
Let's have a look at the House of Keys order paper for tomorrow, which is after the Tynwald order paper for tomorrow.
So I can actually put these on screen now. I've been organised this week, I can put up questions 1 and 2, so we can start there, because the Mr. Morehouse, our Castletown man, he's got some beef about the senior race day bank holiday. What was the advice?
I've got a beef about the senior race day bank holiday as well, because it actually falls on my birthday this year.
Make a note.
So, make a note. Yes, it's actually on my birthday, which it doesn't fall very often on my birthday, because TT week, of course, used to be in the first 2 weeks of June, rather than the last week of May and the first week of June, as it is now. So it's.
But what's this question about?
It's my day. It's my day.
You haven't asked him to ask the question, have you? You've not.
No.
You've not poked him.
I haven't asked him to ask the question, but no, it's a good idea in one sense, because I don't know if you remember 2001 when Foot and Mouth cancelled the TT. And we decided to just go ahead with everything except the racing anyway, because we'd arranged it, and I suppose that there would be issues about cancellation. So we had the fun-loving criminals playing at the Villa Marina Gardens. It was packed. The beer tent was packed. There were all sorts of goodies and stuff, and gigs and everything. And it was the first TT week that I had, having returned to the island, because I returned to the island later, in the autumn of the previous year, and it was one of the best TTs I've ever been to, possibly the best TT, and there wasn't any racing. So the idea of it is good, but the problem is, of course, it's a bit late now to change the bank holidays, because people wanting to do things like get the beer tent back, put the Bushies Village in the Villa Marina Gardens. So then you've got to have the licensing applications and all sorts of other things, and then of course you've got to be able to get there along the prom, as you go through the wreckage of the where the shelling has been along the prom.
I just love the idea of that super yacht last week, and it's there parked in the bay, and you have on the bridge, with the binoculars. Sergey, you've got to see this place. It's like a fucking war zone,
Yes, it looks like Odessa is going to do next week.
Yes, precisely. Oh God, we might not be here.
Well, yes, if we are here. So if Tuesday's Tynwald happens, let's talk about tomorrow. If tomorrow happens, so you have that question which he's asking Alf Cannon, Treasury Minister, but also, of course, in question 7, he gets a second bite of the cherry, where he can ask pretty much the same question again to the Minister for Enterprise.
Yeah, I've got that up there, question 7. So we'll just have a quick look at that, and it's about consultation for the shifting of the 2020 senior race day. So there must be a little golden nugget hidden somewhere, because that's what it is with a lot of these questions, isn't it? There's someone's got a sniff, and they're just trying to ease it out, tease it out. So we'll. Oh yes,
I mean you ask a question. You rarely ask a question for information. You ask a question because you pretty much know the answer, and then you can use the supplementary questions to beat the person, to beat the minister responsible with it.
But checkmate rarely happens.
That, yes, I mean, I doubt that there was very much in the way of consultation. I think there's after the last Super Manx 4-day bank holiday, there was a thought, well, if we're going to have to do that again, we'll just do it again. And not have 3 days there and 3 days there. That doesn't really suit our grand design. And of course, the thing is, with a 4-day bank holiday at the end of August, plenty of campaigning time.
Oh yes, and it's a feel-good factor as well, isn't it? Look at what we gave.
And it's a feel-good factor just before all those people come knocking on your doors, if they haven't knocked on the doors before.
That almost sounds like there's been some planning put into this. Can we just
Yes, some thought.
have a look?
I mean, things happening intentionally. You know,
The question
who'd have
which
thought it?
the question which kind of catches my eye is Mrs. Barber, and what are the total losses? What the total losses were for the Manx National Heritage pop-up shop based in the sea terminal, including A, capital and B, revenue losses. So that's a tough one because I don't think Manx National Heritage is actually under the Department of Enterprise, so there might be some difficulty answering that.
Yeah.
But again, it sounds like the project was a total flop, doesn't it? So.
Well, I'm sure it will be. No, it's something for Visit Isle of Man to assess, reconsider, blah 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 blah. You know, it was a worthwhile attempt, but having reviewed the situation and reviewed the figures, yes, we will be adopting a different strategy. Blah blah.
But my favourite.
Lessons learned, blah blah.
My favourite Manx National Heritage story at the moment is the Peggy, so the world's oldest schooner, and it's got this museum.
Yes, it has to be returned to its previous site in Castletown. I think it's now in some sort of storage shed
in Braddon. Apparently.
In Braddon.
Is it too big for the museum? Is that what the story is? Because when we did have a tourism season, I brought some Americans, to the Peggy. Oh, we must see this museum, quaint Castletown. And they get into the museum. It goes, well, where's the boat? We've come all the way from Oklahoma to see this. Where is it? So it was. It was a bit of a letdown. And then I think shortly afterwards we went to the Laxey Wheel, which was static. So.
Yes. You don't need a water wheel that goes round. I mean, what would be the point of that?
But some serious stuff going on in that place. Okay, so let's have a look down the list. What else has caught your eye?
Well, there's a question, number 8 from Mrs. Edge.
Number 8.
About who staffed the childcare facility at the National Sports Centre since it opened. Now, recently, of course, it's come to light that there was a specialist childcare provision for various key people in Isle of Man civil service and DHSC, but we don't know exactly how, at what level these people had to be in order to have access to this marvellously privileged childcare facility.
I see.
So whether it was something for the for the upper echelons.
So hang on. I've just got this image in my head, and this is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Okay. And the water slides are working. So are we talking that there's been envelopes full of golden tickets being handed out? They haven't had to buy the chocolate bars. Augustus Gloop has got one in the palm.
Yes, that's right. So long as your mummy and daddy are director level and above, then yes, there you go. So that I think is what she's trying to explore at, because the previous answers I think that she's been given on that, saying that no, it's childcare facility. There wasn't any sort of education going on, but she may know different.
Oh blimey! Imagine that, having the whole sports centre to yourself and your mates.
Well, but also if they're then being tutored as well, if it's actually still being used like a hub school, but it's hub schools for the hoi polloi. No, but
right.
A hub school for the for the political elites' children. That's fine.
Gosh, and yeah, it was about a year ago. It was going to be the morgue, wasn't it, for the multiple fatalities?
Well, you have to plan for these things.
Unless it's a water slide, of course, which, ironically, were constructed, I think, in Turkey, weren't they? I think that was the link, wasn't it? And, of course, Mr. Mark Cavendish has won 3 races in a row in Turkey. So cycling is going to be fashionable again. There'll be more bikes on the roads. The bike shops will be going.
Not more of the cycling lobby. And indeed, Chris Thomas has been talking about that in the past couple of days, about whether really there should be more emphasis on in infrastructure repairs to making the centre of Douglas and the Douglas suburbs more livable, rather than encouraging things like long tail runs. See, I don't use that word. Yeah. Long tail runs, avoiding various traffic roadworks going into then residential areas and making them not really safe places to walk around along the pavement. And also to try and de-emphasise this idea of active travel should only be on bicycles.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot going on. In fact, that reminds me, there's another question from Mr. Morehouse. I'll just try and find it. Something about buses. Let's have a look.
Oh, yes.
Buses,
yes. There are what is it, 16 questions, I think, for written answer?
Yeah, written answer.
Yeah, 16 questions for written answer, and I think this is number 4?
Number 4? Oh, yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, here it is. I've got it up on the screen.
Yep.
So, this is...
Yeah.
I mean, the buses, they really do get some flack. How much bus fanning spent on fuel for A, buses, and B, minibuses in each of the last 12 months? So obviously his angle is we've had the all singing, all dancing bus timetable with millions of buses whizzing round empty. So it could be that there'll be a follow-up question, maybe what was the loss? I don't know. Or the carbon emissions, maybe. I wonder which way.
I think it's going to be a much more straightforward thing. I think in the first wave, it was very much a question of the normal timetable was still maintained, even though nobody could go anywhere. So there's lots of buses driving around with nobody in them. Of course, in this current lockdown, the timetable has been restricted. As anyone who tries to get a bus from Port Erin to Port St Mary will tell you, because there's only one every hour.
The pubs aren't open.
And the pubs aren't open, yeah. But so if you want to get on the bus from Port St Mary to go to ShopRite in Port Erin, you better get everything done within 15 minutes. Otherwise, you have to wait another hour for the bus back.
Well, we'll watch that one, because it's going to be a lot of money. A lot of money.
Oh, yes. So but there are all sorts of other issues with bus vanning, as we know. So that may be just one of those little wedge questions that you put in order to prize open more.
Well, I did look at the Manx Taxpayers Alliance website, and it was talk of that they've spent 12 grand on a survey, haven't they, for buses? But I don't know what the outcome of that was, so we'll have to look out for.
Was it? I thought it was on the roads generally.
Was it roads generally?
Yes, I think it was. It's a usual one that they do every year, and 11 grand to find out that they're blindingly obvious, I suppose, is seems a bit of a waste.
The roads are a big voting issue, aren't they? So Mrs. Kane is on about the adopted pavements. Which was quite interesting about this private estate up in Onken, where these multi-million-pound houses, or maybe not that lavish, but ones which are suffering with crumbling footways and sidewalks and what have you. Right, let's see. We had some other questions, didn't we? What else have we got that's of interest? Oh, I like the planning one. Where let's pull that up. Let's pull it. So that's Daphne again. And she's pretty hot on planning and the like, and listed buildings and so forth. She's always got a nose for that one. But this one, question 12, which is, on how many occasions the minister, delegated member, upheld and overturned independent planning inspectors' recommendations? So this is where the political element have gone against the experts' recommendation. And what reason was for political decisions that did not accept the planning inspector's recommendations? That's quite an interesting one.
Well, I think that's ongoing from something she's raised, I think, about various planning things in her constituency. So I think it's a continuation of that.
Yeah, it's another one. Oh, and the Peggy. Yeah, there is a question about the Peggy. So I thought I'd seen it flash up somewhere. So actually, he's on it, isn't he? He's saying,
yes, Mr. Morehouse again.
What dimensions are?
What are the dimensions? Oh, yes, the unit where the Peggy is stored.
Well,
the cellar at the north.
No, it's so simple. What the solution is, they just move the museum to the warehouse in Braddon. That's what they do.
Well, yeah, but it's not really that sort of touristy, Braddon, is it? Yes, look at the marvelous vista of our. There's a printing works there or something, isn't there? And there's a software company.
There's more shops and footfall going on than down in Strand Street and what have you. There's no, there's less places boarded up.
Oh yes, but that sadly, I think is just a trend that is happening generally in retail. You've only got to look across to see that there are similar problems with high streets becoming, deserts with windows.
Well, you know what's going to happen up at what can I say, Jacksonville, shall we say, where there's B&Q and Currys and what have you.
Oh yeah.
You've got the world's biggest ever car showroom, and and that area, up to Robinsons and what have you, it's just begging to be the it's like a shopping centre, out of town centre that you have in the UK. That's on the intersection of a motorway or a travel route. And that's where that is going.
Yes, but I think there is a tendency to try and revive high streets and try not to actually have so much in the way of out of town. But it's a bit of a sort of devil in the deep blue sea. The high street declines, and so business rates reduce, so they have to keep putting the rates up, and that then makes the business not viable, along with rent increases as well, rateable value. So that a sort of vicious downward spiraling circle for the high street, and that's going to have to be something that central government's going to have to address, I'm afraid.
Turn it into houses, bars, and restaurants.
Yeah. But you can turn some of them into houses.
Yeah.
Yes, because they've been previously kind of residentially-ish kind of premises. But obviously something like Topshop or Next, that's going to be a bit more difficult to turn into accommodation.
I can see it being the only way, and I think if it's affordable housing for young people, and it can't be bought for investment purposes, and there's some clever mechanism to facilitate that, I think we could be getting somewhere and have some life in the town. And it's going to be the same with the offices as well, because there's no doubt about it. I was speaking to someone today, and offices now, people are working well at home, they're productive, and there's going to be some spare office space going.
Oh, I remember when you couldn't get office space in Athol Street and around there, for love nor money. You simply couldn't get it. And now there's just vast quantities of Central Douglas office space that seem to be permanently empty, because either people have migrated out to the business park, you get to get in and out, or they're then working from home now.
All change, isn't it? All change. Right, what else have we got on the list?
Well, there's a very interesting motion, number 5.
Number 5.
Actually. The Honourable Member of Douglas Central, Mrs. Corlett, to move that Standing Orders
Oh, yeah.
3.5.1, subsection 2, be
Yeah.
amended to add the words, unless a majority of members present and voting determine that the time shall be extended. Now, this is the infamous problem of the block vote curtailing questions, at 1 hour. They talk down the clock, generally filibuster, and then half the questions don't get answered, or they're converted to written answer, or they then have to go into the next week where they might lose their next couple of weeks, where they might then lose their topicality. As it says, the amended standing order would read to the time allotted for tabled questions shall be 1 hour unless a majority of members present and voting determine that the time shall be extended. And that's also key, the wording. A majority of members present and voting. No. So it's not, we can't do that because there aren't enough members to vote on it. Another excuse.
She's been fairly quiet, hasn't she, Mrs. Corlett? I think that's fair to say.
Oh yes, I think she's looking at re-election and finding that she needs a bit more profile.
So tell me, I think we'll just call it an end to the day soon. But just
well, call it an end to the day soon. But to just, I think, reiterate as well, when you get down past past these to the actual sort of nitty gritty of doing legislation stuff, which is what this additional session was supposed to be about. Yeah, half of the additional stuff has had to be dropped in order to accommodate questions, and also the stuff that's there's a lot to get through. Where did I make a note of this? About the various amendments. Well, on the landlord bill, there's 20 amendments to be considered, and those are actually quite complex. There's also a motion before that by Chris Robertshaw, where he asks that, pursuant to Standing Order 319.1, the decision that Clause 16 stand part of the bill shall be rescinded. Now, this clause 16 is a fit and proper persons test for who can be a landlord. And whilst it specifies certain offences that somebody might have done if they've been found guilty of those offences, then they can't be a landlord. But also, it allows for essentially reputational evidence to be brought which might not involve any crime or any offence that's being committed, but that their previous alleged behaviour towards tenants or some such that would then make them not a fit and proper person to then be registered as a landlord. Which, of course, as Chris Robertshaw says, goes against the basic principle of common law. You're innocent of something until proved guilty of it. But then again, fit and proper persons tests do sometimes allow for that. And it's a fit and proper persons test for someone to own a newspaper, for example, in the UK. And I worked on one of these, which was David Sullivan, of the Daily and Sunday Sport, and he was trying to buy the Birmingham Evening Mail and Post. We decided, after some consideration which involved me having to read the Daily Sport and the Saturday Sport for 2 weeks, all of the back copies and all of the Press Complaints Commission stuff.
Blimey.
Yes, they didn't let me phone any of the phone lines. Yes, very annoying. Yeah. But yeah, when looking at that, that this person was perhaps not a fit and proper person, even though they hadn't done anything wrong within the terms of the law, to own influential, substantial regional newspaper. So, in fit and proper persons tests, it is actually, there is actually precedent for the idea that people don't have to have actually done something wrong before in order to not be thought of as a fit and proper person legally to do something. So we'll see how Chris Robertshaw gets along with that. But then you have the 20 amendments there. Then you have the consideration of the amendments by Legco on the road traffic bill. Now, these might be nodded through or stuff, but there are 63 of them. So somebody might get the idea that it should be contentious and can I have an amendment to the amendment, please? And of course, because the order paper has only just been, say, within 48 hours, any amendments will be basically written on the back of an envelope and handed round tomorrow morning.
It's interesting. It's one of the MHKs was on Twitter. I'm not quite sure, so I won't name that person. But they stipulated that members in the House of Keys aren't actually reading what's the information is. They're not doing the homework. They're not even looking at bundles because there's so much going through now.
Oh, absolutely. And this means, as I say, we have 9 bills still going through various parts of their progress. Some of them have hardly sort of gone, haven't got to clauses yet. I can't see some of these bills surviving. The adoption bill, which of course has been dropped from tomorrow's considerations in Keys, I think that's probably going to fall. I think the competition bill, which has been very widely criticised as a bit of a dog's breakfast, that will fall.
I wonder if there is a performance matrix for this House of Keys compared with previous administrations as to what they've actually achieved on legislation-wise, and going through Tynwald.
Well, I think that has to be compared to the programme for government, and I don't think the programme for government has really been fulfilled to any great extent.
Well, what is it? The Auditor General that popped up again. That they got the nod through on that in something like 2011 or 2012, and that position hasn't been filled as yet.
Well, that's the thing about Manx government. I think, as Peter Greenhill described it, the long no, or the long let's just pause and hope it goes away. People forget about it. Like all those reports about renewable energy.
Oh, crikey. If you do get a chance, listen to Paul Crane's podcast on whatever it is, Sharon Sutton's Thornton site. Go to 24 minutes and he gives full frank how poor we are with our green initiatives on the Isle of Man, how we're just lagging behind in the UK and beyond. It's embarrassing.
Well, there's I shall have to put it up at some point, various maps from a UK government on renewables, and a striking map of the various coastal areas and various sea areas where wind farms and tidal are going to be pursued for leases that will be sold. All in the Irish Sea, all around the North Sea, and then there's this little bit of empty sea, with the Isle of Man in it. So we will be surrounded by renewables, wind power, tidal power everywhere, but not a megawatt of it being ours.
It really is incredible.
It's just ridiculous.
Even if you purchase your electric car if you can afford to, because these are a lot of money, and then to charge your electric car using the power from the gas-fired power station.
But you don't. The thing is that I don't think very much power is generated at the moment.
I'll grant you that. I grant you that.
Because, strangely enough, it's cheaper for Max Utilities to buy in power from the wind farms. It's mostly renewable.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's absolutely incredible, and we're just going to be losing money, aren't we, in the long run? I mean, they've changed, they've moved the goalposts on. If you've got solar panels on you, or you generate your own power, and you could feed it back into the grid. And
yes, I think people have. Yes, I think people at MUA have started to realise that solar panels are very rapidly increasing in capability. It's a bit like Moore's law with computers, where they double in capability every 18 months. Nowadays, PV panels, once upon a time they used to be sort of 300 quid a go. Now I think they're about £50 a panel. So it's becoming almost possible for you to generate your own electricity, or much of your own electricity. Can't have that. Can't have people going around generating their own electricity for free. Well, for the capital cost of some putting up some PV panels and a few storage batteries. Can't have that.
Well, this is it. How simple is it? I must start looking on YouTube. That's my little job for the next few days. Now the good weather's here.
Yes, how to go off grid. Yeah. But the thing is, not only, of course, do we have this to all consider tomorrow, then, of course, next Tuesday, Tynwald will have to. It's got 26 items on the order paper, and that's just on the order paper, because the question paper hasn't come out yet. That'll be coming out, I don't know, probably end of tomorrow, Friday.
Oh, because we're going to have like border mania, aren't we? Because Jersey seems to be doing it so well. Every time we're getting compared with Jersey and Guernsey, and it's chalk and cheese in many ways, but there's going to be a barrage because the trade are getting a little bit frisky, aren't they? Now about and people are just fed up of having to stay on the island. They feel imprisoned, and if it's all going to be opened up in the UK. And the jabs.
Well, I know people in UK who have relatives on the island, or are from the island and have moved to the UK to work, who are very anxious to come back and see relatives. And so, but they can't do under the current restrictions. Indeed, I know some people. There's one person I know who is stuck in the south of France. Has been stuck at there are worse places to be stuck than the south of France, but they've been stuck there for 18 months.
Is he an alcoholic now?
No, he wasn't beforehand either.
Mind you, that doesn't happen when you're on the good stuff, does it? No word.
No. No. You just sit there savouring your. Your Mouton Rothschild.
Oh God, lovely. Fancy that. No, I think everyone is tired, aren't they now? Tired.
Yeah.
A little bit grumpy.
People are tired of it. People are tired of complying with it as well. You see, even though people are going around, some still with face coverings, or not. People ignoring the sort of one-way things and social distancing in shops. They can't be arsed with it anymore.
And of course, we'll support the local economy by going on a staycation. So you can imagine the hotelier or guest house owner, private cottage, and you've got the family turning up for one night. It's not worth it. Even 2 nights, 3 nights, it's just not worth, having to do all the linen, do all the preparation. Those in the trade just want to have proper tourists who are spending money and they're here for a change of scene and they're enjoying themselves.
Yes, I think, as vaccination has has progressed and the percentage of people vaccinated has increased markedly, I think you have to go to a managing situation rather than the eradication strategy which we had previously, which frankly was always going to be a bit of a non-starter. Yes, you can have an eradication strategy so long as you keep all the borders closed.
Exactly. No, we're going to have to get the punters in, and I'm liking the idea of stealing the walrus from Tenby. Imagine that. Have you seen
stealing the walrus from where?
Tenby. There's a walrus in Tenby. Can you? Massive thing. Big pair of tusks on it.
Wasn't it the same walrus that was in the Sound? I remember somebody saying there was a walrus in the Sound a couple of weeks ago.
No, I think that was a sea shanty, maybe. A myth.
Manx rumour mill. Yeah.
But there's one in Tenby. I mean, the way this lockdown diet is going, I feel the size of a walrus myself. I could do it.
Oh yes, I mean one of the things I'm going to be doing a lot of when lockdown is over is walking around a lot. 2, 3, 4 mile walks, get all this podge off.
Oh dear, incredible stuff. Well, let's reconvene next week when we've got Tim Walden.
Well, yes, we shall reconvene on Monday on Monday evening when there will be lots more to talk about. I'm sure. But for those of you who like to listen to these things and are sad perhaps, or indeed like a little bit of light relief, of course, Manx Radio I think will be covering Tynwald and Quays from 10, and also of course you can listen to it on the Tynwald site.
Precisely. I have been tuning into the Manning line, which is come back. It's grown on me again because I'm finding this guy Tony, who's quite direct, isn't he, when he comes on. Have you heard him?
Oh, Tony, yeah. He basically thinks that the guy, he says what we all think, that the government's a load of, it's useless. Basically, couldn't run a bath.
It's good. It's good stuff. I'm surprised he's not being eliminated or had his phone line cut. But
I dare say that. I dare say that will happen. But there's a new crop. There are a new crop of characters who seem to have emerged on Manning line.
Oh, but you still get that daily wheeze from Onken. Jesus, my
yes.
word! Is he back in? Trying to get back in? Is that?
Oh, I dare say he might try and get back in, but
dear
yes,
God.
I think he'll find that his time has passed.
Delightful. Right then, we're just approaching the hour. It's almost 11. It's time for the Horlicks and retiring with my YouTube channel on how to install solar panels at zero cost.
Yeah, so good night, good luck, and don't have nightmares, everybody.
Come on, John, give us a proper farewell.
Tonight you'd been listening to two old blokes droning on about politics a lot, but also actually saying some cogent things. Actually, what were we talking about before we were on air. There was something very interesting we were talking about before we were on air, and I actually can't remember what it is.
I tell you what, I was listening to Public Image today.
I mean, when you're having fun, doing this sort of thing, time flies by when you're the driver of a train, really, and you forget various things.
Yes.
Or it could just be my age, anyway.
You are absolutely right. You've nailed it. It's all coming back to me. Right. Happy thoughts. Right then. Good night, fella.
Good night.